Ladies and gentlemen, the time has finally come. I've seen all the requests, I've read all the messages, and it's finally time to talk about it. Today, we're going to have a chat about my natural accent. Let's talk about it. Hey up, mate. How you doing today? Cheers for finding this podcast. I appreciate that. Now, if you're new around here, my name is Dan. I'm a British English teacher, and I'm here to help you feel more confident when you're communicating in English. I'm also going to show you some stuff about British life, British culture, and of course, British English and speaking of British English. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that's pretty close to my heart. We're going to be talking about my natural accent and my natural dialect. So when I became a teacher, I had to learn to speak English in a bit of a different way. I had to neutralize my accent a bit because my natural accent is very difficult to understand. You know, it's the kind of accent that on the TV, they'll put subtitles. You know what I mean? And I became a teacher in Japan. If I didn't change my accent and my dialect, little Japanese kids have got no chance of understanding what I was talking about. But I am proud of my accent. I'm proud of where I grew up and my dialect. And yeah, I want to share some of that with you today. I get requests about it a lot. You know, people want me to talk about my natural accent and my natural dialect and all that stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, check this. Are you still struggling to feel confident when speaking in English, even after all of them hours you've spent studying? Do you still feel stuck in conversations like you just can't find the words you're looking for? Well, trust me when I tell you this, mate. I know the frustration, but I also know the longer you wait to deal with the problem, the worse the problem is going to get. But it doesn't need to be this way. For less than $1 a day, you can get access to the BritSpeak Mates community, which will help you solve these problems. You'll get access to daily speaking challenges and the 24/7 live practice room. You'll get a community of other people just like you to help you stay motivated. You're going to be able to get answers to your questions from me and other community members. And you're also going to be able to get weekly speaking practice lessons if you go for the VIP tier. So for just $19 a month, you'll gain all of that so you can finally start feeling confident when you're communicating in English. All you've got to do to sign up is go to the link in the description or visit britspeak.co/BritSpeak-mates. That's britspeak.co/BritSpeak-mates. And I hope to see you in there soon. But for now, back to the episode. Okay, good stuff. So, like I said, we're going to be talking all about my natural accent and dialect. Now, first of all, it is hard for me to switch between my teacher voice and my natural accent. So you might notice things are not very consistent during this episode, but I'll try my best. The more we get into the episode, the more it'll come out. So just bear that in mind, all right? Anyway, we've got a lot to cover today, so let's have a look what's going on in today's episode. First of all, we're going to talk about the importance of learning the local accent. You know, when you move to the UK, or if you move to the UK, I should say, not everybody's going to move to the UK, but if you move to the UK, what I'd like you to do is learn your natural accent. Learn your local accent, not your natural accent. You learn your local accent, maybe not because you want to sound that way, but because it'll help you integrate and understand and connect and all that good stuff. We're going to talk a lot about that in a minute. We're also going to have a look at the Sheffield accent against RP. And how different they are, because they're pretty different. We're also going to look at 10 Sheffield words that you must know if you go to the Steel City. And I'm also going to be answering your questions. And speaking of questions, today's question is, what's the hardest UK accent you've ever tried to understand? Put your answers in the chat and we'll talk about them at the end of the podcast. So, yeah, that's the idea for today. So let's jump in with the first topic, right? So should you bother learning the local accent when you live in the UK, right? This is a common thing. A lot of people think, oh, I don't care about learning accents. I don't care about trying to change my accent. And I don't believe you should try and change your accent, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about learning the local accent, because whether you like it or not, most people in the UK don't sound like they're on BBC. We all got different accents and dialects and stuff. So the short answer to this question is yes, you should. But let's talk about why you should, okay? The first thing learning the local accent will do is it makes it easier to understand local people, right? If you understand their accent and their dialect and why they say things the way they do, and you understand what they're saying when they do that, it's going to be way easier for you to connect, and you're going to feel more like you're part of a community, and it helps to build rapport with the people around you and stops you feeling like a proper loner, an outsider. So basically, learning the local accent is going to help you integrate into your new community, right? That's pretty cool if you ask me. The next thing it's going to do, it's going to build confidence and trust with people that you meet. Now, if you can try to just add a little bit of the local accent and dialect, if you can use a few local words, or you can say a couple of things that sounds like a local, the people around you will absolutely love it. If somebody speaks to me and they've started to develop a bit of a Sheffield accent, I love it. Absolutely love it. And I appreciate when somebody's making an effort to learn my language, even more if they're going to try and learn, that specific part of the country where I'm from, and that's going to help you feel better. You're going to feel more included. You're going to feel better about your abilities, and that's going to build your confidence, and that's good, isn't it? That's good. And then the last thing it's going to do is it's going to make your daily life conversations way easier. Understanding all the weird stuff that people do, like all the slang and the contractions and the grammar and the pronunciation and all the weird stuff that's going on. If you actually understand all that stuff, your daily life conversations are going to be way easier, which means you can communicate better with people, which means you're more likely to make friends and, all that good stuff. So these are all reasons you should learn some stuff. Now, I'm not saying you have to completely abandon your accent and suddenly sound like everybody else, but what I'm saying is just incorporating a little bit goes a long way, yeah? So a lot of questions come next then. It's like, why do accents matter? So what? You guys have got an accent. What difference does it make? Well, in the UK, accents actually play a big role in communication between people. One reason accents really matter is they're tied to the local culture. The accents and the dialects are usually closely related to the history and the culture of that area. Going back to my neck of the woods, Sheffield, there's a lot of influence from like Celtic languages and Vikings and Nordic languages and that kind of stuff. And a lot of that history, because, it's one of the places that the Vikings came to, like Yorkshire and especially Scarborough and these places near the coast. Like, it's part of our heritage, it's part of our history. And what you'll find, especially in Yorkshire, Jesus Christ, especially in Yorkshire, people are quite proud of their local heritage. And that includes the history, that includes the culture, and that includes the language and the dialect and the accent, much more so than nationality at a country level. Ask anybody from Yorkshire. They'll be proud to tell you they're from Yorkshire. If you ask them, are you proud to be British? The answer is going to be a bit more mixed. For some reason, we care way more about the city or the town or the village that we grew up in than like national pride, generally speaking. So accents matter because they're tied to that kind of thing. So it's kind of representation of that, which is good. Another thing that's really important is that it has class implications. Now, the UK has got, let's say, a class issue, okay? And if you're not sure, class is basically a way that we invented to be racist to people who look the same as you, right? We look the same, but I need to find a new way to discriminate against you. And that's where we came up with the class system. And the class system is very deep-rooted in British culture. And there are a lot of nuances to class, right? Now, accents often come with stereotypes, and that stereotype can affect the way people see you and the way they treat you. Now, a good example of this is a Yorkshire accent, where I'm from, is considered quite a trustworthy, friendly accent. You know, if you want to cancel your contract for your phone, you're probably going to go to a call centre in Yorkshire because we've got quite a nice accent and we're quite trustworthy. But we're also considered a bit thick. Like, we're not considered smart people. I mean, obviously it's not true. It's a stereotype. I mean, I'm a very intelligent person. I don't know what you're talking about. But the point is, we're considered not so smart. We're considered good workers, and we're considered honest and trustworthy, but we're not considered smart. And on the other hand, an RP accent, you know, Queen's English, is considered very posh and very well educated, but also probably somebody's quite snooty that thinks they're better than you, right? And this accent, through historical reasons and cultural reasons, can cause divides between different people. So if you end up in, I don't know, Liverpool, and you've got a Queen's English accent, you might get some funny looks because people are like, who's this posh guy? Why is he here? He's not one of us. You know, that kind of thing. Now, this is a much deeper topic that we probably need to save for another episode, but accent and dialect matter because they do have class implications. It's important to know. Now, and this one, I'm going to have to say this every episode, I think. RP, or received pronunciation, is not the correct English. It's not the British English. There's no standard British English. They made RP as a way for rich people to have their own special accent growing up. Like, in the history of the UK, that's where it comes from. It's not geographically based, it's money based. And it was just a way of differentiating people with money, the people that didn't have money. But anyway, for some reason, this became the standard of English. You know, that's what got taught in textbooks and, you know, classes all over the world. So people assume it's correct and it's right. And if you look at any of the comments on my videos, people are like, oh, you should go back to school because you sound uneducated. Because I don't speak like the Queen. The RP accent that people come to expect from British people is actually complete bullshit. Honestly, about, I would say, less than 5% of the UK have this accent, right? So 5% of the whole country has this accent, but everybody thinks it's the correct one. There's no such thing as a correct. All the other ones have been around much longer than RP. So, yeah, I know people get taught RP, but that doesn't mean it's correct, okay? There's no such thing as a correct accent. They're all correct because they all exist. They're just different, okay? So these are reasons why accents matter. Now, this leads us to the question, how do you learn the local accent? Well, there's kind of 4 steps to do it, and it's pretty straightforward. Step 1 is you need to learn the rules. You need to learn the features of the accent and dialect. And the way you do this is you look online. You know, you look on Google, you look on YouTube, whatever, and you understand what are the differences between the accent you want to learn and, you know, textbook English. You know, what words do they use? How do they pronounce things differently compared to the dictionary, for example, right? Those are the things that you need to know. You need to know how people in Birmingham say that sound. Okay, and once you know the rules and you kind of learn the different linguistic features of that accent, what you're going to do is you're going to do some searching. And what you're going to do is you're going to search for famous people that use the accent you want to learn. You know, for argument's sake, if you want to learn, I don't know, like a Liverpool accent, you'll look at like John Bishop and Stephen Gerrard and whatever. For Sheffield, where I'm from, you can look up Sean Bean. He's a famous actor that's got a Sheffield accent. Or Alex Turner, the guy from Arctic Monkeys, before he got famous, because he really lost his accent after they got famous. When they first started, he'd got a really strong Sheffield accent. Now he's famous. He sounds like he's from New York or something. It's a bit weird. Oh, there's that new kid, that like rapper guy. I don't know if he's a rapper. That musician called Youngblood. He's from Sheffield area, I think. Around Sheffield. Probably he's from Rotherham or Barnsley, but close enough to where I'm from. So anyway, you're going to find a couple of people who have got that accent that you want to learn, right? If it's a Geordie accent, for example, maybe you're going to look at Alan Shearer or Cheryl Cole or, whatever it is, right? So find some people who've got the accent you want to learn. Then what you're going to do is you're going to find interviews with them, like go on YouTube and just search like Sean Bean interview or whatever. And what you're going to do is you're going to listen to it a lot. You're going to listen to as many interviews as you can find. And what you're going to do is you're going to pay attention to the rules you learned in step 1. And you're going to try and notice them using those things. If you notice that they say a certain sound in a certain way, listen for them saying it. And then you can kind of notice it and pay attention to it. And that's the first step to understanding it, is you've got to notice it before you can understand it, right? And then once you got to grips with listening to it and you're like, okay, I can understand, I can hear that sound, I can understand when they're using this expression, which is a bit different. Then after that, you can try it yourself with some shadowing. I talk about shadowing all the time on this podcast, but shadowing is where you basically listen and repeat to what you're watching, right? So you find an interview with the famous person, you listen to a sentence, you pause it, and you try and copy it, you try and repeat it, especially paying attention to the language features from step 1 that you've noticed, right? And yeah, shadowing is really, really powerful. Now, one thing about the UK is that we've got loads of accents, like 50 different accents or whatever. There's loads of them. And they've all got different features and different techniques that get used, right? So I've actually made a free guide for you lot. It's a free PDF that you can download. And it's called Navigating British Accents, right? And what it is, it's kind of an introduction to different techniques that are used in different accents around the UK. Totally free. The link is in the description. You can get it now. And it'll talk about things like glottal stops, and it'll tell you about things like the bath trap split, which is really important as well. So like I said, it's totally free. You can get it now, and it'll help you understand the accents, and it'll give you a step towards doing step 1 when it comes to how to learn an accent. So yeah, that's why I think it's really important that you learn the local accent if you're going to be living in the UK. Like if you're never going to live in the UK and you just want to travel, probably not for you. But if you're going to live in the UK, learning your local accent has a lot of benefits, okay? Now, speaking, here we go, good segue, speaking of local accents, it's now the time that everybody's been waiting for. I'm from Sheffield, and my accent and dialect is a bit strange. So I'm going to have to take a couple of minutes to try and get me back into me proper Sheffield accent. It's going to take me a minute. So, but as we get more and more through this, you'll notice things become a bit more Yorkshire. All right. So let's just get started, shall we? Right. Why is my natural accent strange? Right. So, pronunciation is quite different. To be honest, there's loads of stuff that's different, like vowel sounds and consonant changes. There's a lot of stuff that we do a bit different down my neck of woods. We also use loads of weird words, like loads of words that they're not proper words anywhere else, but in Sheffield they're all right. And then we've got grammar rules, but we don't pay attention to them. We don't listen to grammar rules. We do things how we want to. We've got our own version of that grammar book, to be honest. So yeah, we don't pay much attention to grammar. We use loads of weird words, and pronunciation is a bit different. So that's why it's a bit strange. Now, Sheffield pronunciation. Here we go. There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot that needs to know. Right. First of all, in Sheffield, where I grew up, we don't use that long ah sound. You know, down south when they say bath and ask We don't do that in Sheffield. In Sheffield, we say ah, bath, and ask. We use a short ah. We don't use a long ah. And same, we don't have foot, strut, split. So for down south, foot and strut have got a different vowel sound, yeah? But in Sheffield, we don't do that either. For us, they both got same vowel sound, like like umbrella, foot, strut. And this also works with words like cup and bus and love. They've all got same sound. So in standard RP English, there's like 12 vowel sounds, but in Sheffield, we've only got 11. We don't use like cup and love and bus. We don't use that. We say cup and love and bus. So yeah, that's first one. With bath trap split and foot strut split, we're in north part, so we don't use them. Next, diphthongs, which are your like A, I, gliding vowels, where you go from one vowel to another. We don't really do that either in Yorkshire, to be honest. We tend to put monophthongs instead. And what you'll get is that vowels are usually long and flat, like they don't change. Now, some examples. Right, right. In Yorkshire, rate. It's rate, berate. Okay. Same with down, ow, down, dan, dan. It's a long R sound. Out, ow, out, at, photo, 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 photo. So you'll find everything gets a bit longer in Yorkshire. At, about, this kind of thing. But sometimes we go other way and we make things shorter. Sometimes we go, not go, go. Or take, tek, make, mek, ate, et. One of my favourites. Tonight, 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 tonight. All right, fair enough. And one of the most confusing one is we don't say my, as in it belongs to me. We say me. It's not my mother. It's me mum. So these are something. We either make the vowels really short or we make them really long and flat. That's one of the things we do. Next, we love glottal stops. That's where we put that T sound. We don't set T. Like bottle of water and all that. But for me, it's bottle of water. Water becomes a short water. A bottle of water. Bottle of water. We love glottal stops so much in Yorkshire, we even do it to the word the. So I am going to the shop. I'm gonna shop. The becomes glottal. I'm gonna shop. Not I'm going to the shop. I'm gonna shop. Words that end in Y. Instead of happy, with the long E sound, happy, we just go happy, funny, Monday, So this is, I think it's called Y clipping, I think the word they use. But yeah, we basically clip the end of the Y sound. Happy, funny, Monday. Rather than happy, funny, Monday. We don't really do that. And our accent is non-rhotic, which means we don't pronounce the R, especially at the end of words and with vowel sounds. It's not mother. First of all, we don't use the mother, no, mother. And then it gets worse. So, mo rather than ma. And ER at the end is not it's mother, mother. It gets worse because we don't even say the either, but whatever. We'll come to that in a minute. So yeah, we're non-rhotic. We clip the end of the Y and we love glottal stops. Now, we also do something called TH stopping and TH fronting as well. So now you probably know the TH sound, or th sound, depending on which one it is. Now in Yorkshire, where I grew up, then us, we don't do that. We do th fronting and th stopping, which is where you replace those sounds with things like v. So instead of mother, v. Instead of Thursday, Thursday. And instead of like this, and that. This and that, mother. These are all Yorkshireisms. And we don't stop there. We don't pronounce th, and we're like, that's not enough. We're also not going to pronounce h at beginning of words. We're basically going to be French, and we're going to not say hello, it's hello, hello, hey up. So that's where at the beginning of every episode I say hey up. What I mean is hey up, which is a British way of saying hello, but for me, hey up, hello. Hotel. I stayed in hotel. It were horrible. The hotel were horrible. Hotel, bloody horrible. Yeah, so these are all very important aspects of pronunciation in Sheffield. Nah, not now. Nah then. We're going to talk a little bit about Sheffield dialect. Now, let's first of all talk about greetings. Greetings. You know, when I see somebody in the street and they're, all right, we've got a few ways to do it. First of all, first expression you'll hear when people in Sheffield say hello. We don't say hello very much. We'll say, nah then. Nah then. Now then. Now. Nah then. Means, all right, mate. How are you? I'll say, hey up. Hello. Hey up. And now, the question you put is, how are you? In Yorkshire, is how do. Which is how, without the H, and we don't want to pronounce it. I do. How do you do? I do. How do, mate? Are you all right? And a good answer you'll hear all the time is, I am grand. I am grand. I'm very well, thank you. I'm grand, lad. And if you're not doing so well, you might hear, fair to middling. Fair to middling. I'm fair, middle, not good, not bad, I'm in middle. Fair to middling. And another classic one. I'll mime a full conversation for you in Yorkshire. Person A sees their mate and he walks up to him and says, all right. And his mate says, all right. It's everything. So I guess you could translate all right as all right. All right. But in Yorkshire, it's all right. All right. All right. How are you? I'm not bad, thank you. All right. All right. So those are some greetings. Nah then. Hey up. I do. I'm grand. Fair to middling. All right. All right. So that's greetings they might hear in Sheffield. Another thing, yes and no. We don't say yes and no. Ah is yes. Hey Dan, so I want a cup of tea? Go on then. Yes please. Or no, nah, or nah. Nah. Jesus Christ. It's funny because as I record this and I say it out loud, some of it, even to me, sounds insane. And I grew up there. But and nah are your yes and your no, all right? Oh, God, here we go. Right. Sheffield specifically uses a really old-fashioned pronoun for you. Like, we don't say you, we'll say thee. Thee, which is really old-fashioned. It feels like Shakespeare times, you know what I mean? Say thee, or tha, which is yours. So you is thee, and tha is yours, right? And the other thing is like self. Myself, yourself, his self. We say sen. Sen. So me, because you remember earlier I said we don't say my, we say me. Me sen. Myself. Me sen. Dan, who are you going to the concert with? I'm going by me sen. I'm going by myself. Me sen. All right. And then you is thee. So yourself, thisen. Hey, sit thisen down. Sit yourself down. Sit thisen down. All right. Cool. He's on his sen. He's by himself. He's on his sen. All right. And then I want to talk about another set of pronouns. Anything, something, and nothing in Yorkshire, in the Yorkshire dialect, different words. Anything. Oat. Did you have anything to eat? Is that oat to eat? As thy had oat to eat. As thy, had without the H. As thy had, oat to eat. As thou oat to eat. Eight. God, past tense. Right. As thou oat to eat means have you had anything to eat? Bloody hell. No, I ain't had note. I haven't, I ain't had note. I haven't had nothing, which is also grammatically incorrect, but we'll get to that in a minute. Oh, fair enough, lad. Does thou want summat? Does thou want summat? Would you like something? So anything is oat, nothing is note, and something is summat. Oat, note, and summat in Yorkshire, especially Sheffield. And then we've got a bunch of slang words that have historically come from like Celtic or Nordic or Viking kind of languages. For example, bairn is quite common in a lot of places in the north of England, especially Newcastle and Scotland and that. So bairn, it means a kid, a young kid. When I were a wee bairn. Let's see. Sile, especially you'll hear the expression siling it down. Sile means to pour. But usually we talk about rain. Oh, it's siling it down. And then addle. Addle is to earn, like money, to make money, to addle. And there are some slang words in the Sheffield dialect. Now, Sheffield grammar, to round this one up. There's a few things, I mean, we do a lot of weird stuff that kind of you saw in the last part, but let me just give you some stuff to work on. Were. In standard English, you've got I was, you were, he was, she was, they were. Not in Sheffield, they're all were. I were, you were, he were, she were, they were. I mean, it's kind of easier, isn't it? I were, they were, you were, he were, she were. We don't care about was and were. They're all were. And even then, it's a short were, not were. Were. I were going. One thing that people always correct in my podcast is, Dan, you said was and were wrong. This is why. Because when I grew up, we didn't have was and were, we just had were. All right. Same with doesn't. It's not like I don't, you don't, he doesn't. They're all don't. D-U-N-T, done. I don't. He don't. You don't. I don't know. You don't know. He don't know. They're all the same. So yeah, was, were, and doesn't. They're all the same. We often drop the S, the plural S. For example, it's 5 mile down road. Not it's 5 miles. It's 5 mile down road. Or how much were it? Oh, it were £12. Not £12, £12. How much were it? Can I believe it? It was £12. Bloody hell. So yeah, a lot of time we'll drop that plural S, especially on things like miles and pounds. Nah, while and until mean same thing where I'm from. So if somebody says, hey, do me a favour, stay here while 7 o'clock and I'll pick thee up. Stay here until 7 o'clock and I will pick you up. Hey, stay here while 7 o'clock and I'll pick thee up. All right. And saying, what time are you working, Dan? Well, today I'm working 9 while 5. While meaning until. That's a weird one, isn't it? And another one, us and me kind of get mixed up a lot. No, instead of saying give me, you'll often hear people say give us. And that just becomes giz. You know, instead of give me the remote control, Giz remote, give us Giz remote, tell us, oh, what they're doing, tell us what they're doing, tell us, just one person, us, me, you know, so tell us what they're doing. And that, I mean, there's a bunch more. There's a lot more, to be honest with you. But this should get you started. And like I said earlier, I've got that free downloadable guide that you can get. Navigating British accent. Give you a bit of an insight into things like glottal stops and stuff. It's totally free. Links in the description. Check it out. I'm sure you'll find it interesting. So yeah, Sheffield grammar. It's a bit bloody weird than ours. Nice. So yeah, Sheffield accent. Well, I mean, this also applies broadly to Yorkshire as well, to be honest. It's not just Sheffield. Yorkshire has a lot of similar things. Each part of Yorkshire is slightly different, but a lot of it is quite similar. And that kind of leads us to the last part of today's episode. And it's 10 Sheffield or Yorkshire words that you need to know. If you're going to be living in Sheffield, you're going to need to know these words, right? So, the first one is, we already talked about it earlier, but the first word that I need to know is oat and note. Oat and note means anything and nothing. For example, has they got oat to eat? Has they got oat to eat? Oat, has they got oat to eat? No, I don't have now. I don't have now. I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing. So, oat is anything, and note is nothing. So, have you got anything to eat? Has they got oat to eat? I don't have anything. I don't have no. Okay, good. So you'll hear this, oh, no, you'll hear this quite a lot in Sheffield. In fact, we've got a full expression, is, hey, he'll do oat for no. He'll do anything for nothing, that lad. Next is one of my favourite words. God, I love this word. I use it all the time. Rate, which basically just means right. But it's not like turn right or right hand. It's much more like, okay, all right. Rate. And in fact, one of the most Yorkshire expressions you'll ever hear is berate. Berate. It will be all right. Berate. You know, the whole world could be going to shit and people in Yorkshire be like, that knows, berate. You know, Dan, I've heard your bank account got hacked and they took all your money and you're going to get evicted and you're going to have to live on streets. That knows, berate. Berate, won't it? It'll be all right, won't it? Berate, won't it? Also, we talked earlier about all right being a greeting. All right, mate, how you doing? So, yeah. And, yeah, so you might get this kind of thing like, you all right? Are you all right? You all right? Nah, but, you know, berate. No, I'm not okay, but I'm sure it will be fine. Next up, Mardy. Mardy. This is very Sheffield. And you'll hear people say, he's got mards on. Don't talk to Dan, he's got mards on. So this means like miserable, gloomy, you know, depressed, mardy. You know, like my mum used to say, oi, stop being mardy, or I'll give you something to be mardy about. Like, stop being miserable, or I will give you something to be miserable about. Mardy. Sometimes you'll hear the word Mardy arse or Mardy bum. I think that were a famous Arctic Monkeys song. Now then, Mardy bum. It just means somebody's miserable. Very, very Sheffield word. Next one. Another proper Sheffield word is nesh. Nesh. Now, nesh is somebody who's proper sensitive to cold. It's cold outside and they won't stop whinging about it. Oh, it's cold, it's cold. Nesh. Weak. Nesh. So, somebody who's proper sensitive to cold. You know, it's 15 degrees and they've still got the coat on. That kind of person. They've still got their coyotes on. And 15 bloody degrees outside. Nesh. So, You might hear people say like, oof, he's no but nesh, that lad. He is nothing but sensitive to the cold, that lad. Hey, he's no but nesh, that lad. I don't know. I wear shorts when it's snowing, so I'm not nesh. I don't really understand. But some people are proper sensitive to it. Right, next. Siling down. It's siling down. Siling is an old Nordic or maybe a Viking word that means to pour. You know, pour something. It's pouring down. It's pouring down with rain outside. Oh, bloody hell. It's siling it down outside. It's siling it down outside. It's siling it down outside. And this happens a lot in Yorkshire, to be fair, because it's always bloody siling it down. Don't forget the brolly. You'll bloody need it. Next, snap. This is not a game that we play with cards. Snap is a Yorkshire way of saying food, specifically a packed lunch. You know, you go to school or you go to work and you take your snap in a snap tin, which is a lunchbox for everyone else. For something like, yeah, I'm all right. I've got my snap for later. And usually like a sandwich and a pack of crisps or whatever. Got some snap for this young lad. He's been working all day and he needs some snap. Go on, Gary Masani med. He needs some snap for his lunch. But that's a good point in Yorkshire. We don't say lunch. That doesn't exist. We've got breakfast. And then after breakfast, you've got dinner. And after dinner, you've got your tea. And then just before that goes to bed, you might have a bit of supper. That's how it's done in Yorkshire, all right? So anyway, snap. Get some snap for this young lad. Gary Masani. All right? So it just means packed lunch, basically. Spice, which this one is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Spice, to the rest of the world, is something that's spicy. You know, curry. You know. Not in Yorkshire. What's the opposite of spicy, do you imagine? Sweet, and that's what we mean. Sweets, candy, you know, like M&Ms or, you know, like cola bottles or, you know, like Haribo or something. Spice. I'm going to shop for a bag of spice. I'm going to the shop to get a bag of sweets, to get a bag of candy. I'm going to shop for some spice. Does that one know? I am going to the shop to get some sweets. Would you like anything? I'm going to shop for some spices. I want to. Nah, you're all right, Tar. Tar, thank you, by the way. It's not on this list, but tar means thank you. Next. Oops, I've gone too far. Lark. Lark. So I know it's spelt like L-A-I-K, but lark. Larking. 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 And larking means playing. Your kids, they play outside. They lark outside. Like, hey, are they coming outside? Are you going to come lark outside? Are you larking out today? Are you coming to play outside today? Are you larking out? We're going to go down park and play togger, which is football. Giz, we talked about earlier, means give us, which means give me. Giz a lift to town. Will you give me a lift to the town centre, please? Giz a lift to town. Weird. And last, ooh, here we go. This might get a few comments, especially if people who are not learning English watch this video. Because I'll say it now, if you're watching this video and you're not learning English, this video is not for you. It's not. It's for people learning English. But if you are watching this and you're from England, I want to know what you think. Bread cake. I've said it. It's called a bread cake. Now, you might be thinking, Dan, what the bloody hell is a bread cake? This is a bread cake. It's not a bap. It's not a roll. It's not a balm. It's not a tea cake. It's none of them things. That, my friend, is called a bread cake. It's always been called a bread cake. It'll always be called a bread cake. You'll never change my mind. It's a bloody bread cake, that thing. But it's not a cake. Yes, it is. It's a bread cake. Don't you ever forget it. Now, if you take a bread cake like that, you chop it in half, chop it in half, chop it in half, and put a few chips in the middle. You know what you get then? Chip butty. Look at that. Carbs on carbs, a chip butty. Oof, I couldn't get any finer snap than that. That's a proper bit of snap, that. Lovely chip butty. Oof. Plenty of salt and vinegar. Oof. Lovely stuff. So they are 10 Sheffield slang words you need to know. Let's go through them one more time. Oat, anything. Note, nothing. Rate, right. It'll be right. It'll be right. It'll be okay. Mardy, miserable. Nesh, sensitive to the cold environment. Siling down, it's raining very heavily. Snap, a packed lunch or a bit of food. Spice, sweets, candy, that kind of thing. Lark, to play, specifically for kids. Giz, give me, or give us, give me. And bread cake, that thing I showed you on screen that's not called anything else, and I won't have anything else said about it. If you comment saying, no, actually, Dan, it's called a cob, I'm just going to delete it. I'm not. And they are 10 Sheffield words. And probably other parts of Yorkshire use similar words. And just out of interest, if you ever want to start an argument with a British person, show them that picture of a bread cake and ask them what it's called. Guaranteed to start an argument. And that is a bit of an introduction into the Sheffield accent. So let's see what your comments are. Right at the beginning, I asked you guys, what is the most difficult what is the most difficult accent you've ever had to try and learn, and that kind of stuff. So here, Gaverdagly01 says the Geordie accent, but it's spelt with G, Geordie, not a J like this. But a Geordie accent from Newcastle Light. Why I gun down the tune, and why the lads, or whatever they say, I don't know. Can't do a Geordie accent, but cool. Victor says Yorkshire accent, kind of cool. They're not wrong, Victor. Good lad. Ahmed says, how many accents do we need to live in the UK, Dan? You only need your own accent. It depends where you live. Like, for example, if you're going to live in, I don't know, Birmingham, there's no point learning a Yorkshire accent. You don't need it. You need to learn one accent, and that's the place where you're going to be. What else we got? Tefo. Hi, Tefo. Pal, how you doing? A Glaswegian accent from Glasgow. I can't do a Scottish. I was thinking about Scottish accent, but I can't do it. So yeah, a Glaswegian accent. For me, the most surprising accents I hear in the UK, I like the ones that are proper far away from where I grew up. We're talking like, Devon, them kind of accents, or basically whatever Stu talks. Fucking nightmare. I'm only joking. I like Stu quite a lot. I don't know if you guys know this, but I also do a podcast with Stu every week about learning English with the news. It's something that you can check out on Stu's YouTube channel. Anyway, once again, just to let you guys know about the free thing for today's forgot the word, podcast. You can get my Navigating British Accents guide totally for free. Link is in the description. It'll get you started working out some of the different features of British accents and how they work. And if you want to learn even more slang, we just went through a bunch of slang related to Sheffield. If you want to know even more about UK slang, I've got a free guide for that as well. It'll teach you 50 British expressions. It's called British English Made Easy. The link is in the show notes. You can get it for free. Just like that, all you've got to do is click it. I want to say thank you very much for listening today. My accent, yeah, like I said, I had to change my accent when I came to Japan, and I had to tone it down a bit, because you can imagine, I came to Japan and all these little Japanese kids are looking at me and I'm like, all right, how they doing? And I fair to middling, I'm like, all right, well, today we're not going to learn nout, we're doing nothing. And just, nani kore? Nani? Sensei ga yabai na. So, yeah, anyway, on that note, let's call it a day for today. Thank you very much for paying attention to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Victor says, so much vocab and new things for me. Seems fun. Nice episode, Dan. Cheers, Victor. So look after your sen. Look after this sen. And I'll see you next week. See you there.